When blackbirds flock, death is nigh.
If you see rain yet no clouds, that's a sign of evil dying.
In a war, trust no one, not even yourself.
Flowers bloom, dragonflies glide, centipedes and spiders weren't enough, so get ready to be sucked dry. Have you ever wondered why we've yet to get a saying from the Seitei War regarding the Magatsumi? Because I believe we already have the answer. These sayings don't come from the Islanders,
Because they're dead.
but they come from characters like Kanryu Yoshina, either a civilian caught in the crossfire or a war veteran surviving to tell the tale. And through a word of mouth, it spreads like wildfire. The wielders become legend, then etched onto the history books we see Iori and Chihiro learn from. And that way, the sayings now engrave themselves into the culture. But what saying is there to be had from a caricature whose personality isn't known and whose story is completely fabricated by the government? None. Just something to think about, that's all. The chapter further establishes the breaking of glass motif that I extensively covered last review and has a stunning action choreography. But what surprised me most was a singular piece of lore that does so much character exploration just by introducing and canonizing a concept. So walk with me as we yet again revisit KAGURABACHI from a brand new lens, the black lens. As far as explanation goes, what does burning life entail? This is one of the most hard to comprehend systems KAGURABACHI has had thus far, but I'll try to explain it and all of its significance. Shiba eloquently explains life force and spiritual energy being one and the same, and so we can understand that exerting more spiritual energy than realistically possible would be equal to burning it. Yet this is only half the explanation, because we also need to consider death. Sojo versus Chihiro fills the criteria of the first half, but since neither of them were on the verge of death, there was no black state to be seen. Contrast that with the broken Cloud Gouger, where extreme devotion to kill Yura meets with the Cloud Gouger's true purpose, which is to punish evildoers, and you get the black state. Rather than the Swiss army knife that is the true realm, one that adapts to emotional state and physical needs, a black state is a final gambit, a Hail Mary, if you will. Yet, I find it hard to believe that this black state is only related to the enchanted blades, for spiritual energy dwells in everything living. The Magatsumi functions on the black state spiritual energy of others, the kind it absorbs as its victims breathe their last, and that energy is then granted to Soga, who uses it to cast abilities as we know them, black and strong. The emphasis on black being strong is also really interesting because it extends beyond the scope of spiritual energy. Something like Chihiro's Kuro that functions both as the definite offensive ability and something that deals in death, making it strong. The Tobimune, matte black in style and aesthetic in its abilities, or even the Datenseki imbued Islanders, resonating with nature, yet also teetering on death. All this page tells you is that everything we once saw as black now has even more layers to it, both from a power scaling and a literary analysis perspective. So did the wielders use up their black states during the malediction? I find it hard to believe, not just because none of the blades were broken, but because Samura was constantly upkeeping Suzaku, which would make death impossible. I can only imagine that an explanation like this foreshadows the future use of black states rather than implying past activation. The series has established that the world cannot coexist with the enchanted blades, so I can only imagine that the narrative ends with all the EBs, Enten included, broken. Every single blade going into their respective black states in a final blaze of glory, all in their varying contexts and execution. Which makes me wonder, wouldn't this make Chihiro a worse owner for making it reach this state? Rather than something to celebrate and honor, it's the weapon's last howl before it crumbles into nothingness. No man wants to die, no tool wants to break. It yet again paints the picture that rather than some man of might, Chihiro swore an oath to become the Grim Reaper of the Enchanted Blades, as the series has emphasized time and time again. We knew Soga would begin his crusade to execute all villains, but this chapter adds an insane historical addition with the word shukse, political purge. Like all things Japanese, there's at least 8 synonyms for one word, with its meaning and context changing ever throughout. Why did Hokazono choose this iteration in specific? Let's look at the kanji and figure it out together. Shukse consists of 2 kanji. Shuku, something solemn, quiet, or reverent. The implications are dignified, authoritarian, and without causing a ruckus, seen in words like shukzen, adverb for silent, or shukuse, regulation. And the other part, se, is one of purification, used in spiritual and religious senses, but I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. Combined together, the 2 characters give the feeling of a silent, political purge happening across the nation, all in the name of order and authority. But this word is even more special than that, because while it's existed in dictionaries both in Chinese and Japanese history for eons, post World War II, it came to have one other meaning: to refer to Stalin's Great Purge, the one in which he arrests, imprisons, and executes everyone he deems antagonistic to the Stalin regime. So cool, now Soga's got real-life parallels to a literal dictator. Surely this means nothing. I'd also like to bring to the table the true purpose of the Enten, because I feel like it really goes above some people's heads. Like, we did understand that it was created to destroy the Shinichi, right? And in this chapter, we see that mentioned 3 times over. All of its abilities, in one way or another, engineered to counter and outplay the Shinichi. But what about the breaking the blades part? What about the Enten makes it do that? In the Sojo fight, the Cloud Gouger is broken with Kuro. In the Samura fight, the Tobimune is nicked by Aka. But in the Kumeyuri fight, clash after clash, nothing. Not a single chip. So it's not some one specific ability that makes it break. It's almost as if the blade itself, the metal of it, is the one causing the breakage. But, presumably, the blade is the exact same as the other ones. So wouldn't that almost imply that what Samura said is true? That if a wielder is weak and inexperienced enough, that any enchanted blade could have broken it. Hirohiko was a horrible fit for the Kumeyuri, a much worse fit than Sojo was to his respective blade. Yet the Yuri didn't crack, not even a chip. It's as if to say that because he's so skilled, both in spiritual energy control and his adaptation speed and swordsmanship, that destroying it is a much tougher nut to crack. I already implied that we're surely seeing the black state of every single enchanted blade, not just for narrative's sake, but for cool points alone. And assuming this train of thought is correct, Chihiro wouldn't have to be the one breaking every single one of them. Say if the Tobimune broke against the Shinichi, all because of the massive power differential. I don't think it's that far-fetched. far-fetched, although I do understand why most do. Soga presents two more aspects to his already pre-existing archaic viewpoint: harakiri and controlled battlefield. Starting with the one everyone knows, cutting your belly open, also known as harakiri,
or seppuku.
is a form of ritualistic suicide, disembowelment used by samurai to exemplify honor after lost combat. However, in Kagurabachi, there's an even more specific use case. Officers in World War II who atoned to their families and their own stained ego by ending it all at the end of the war. Soga dangles Samura's body count in front of him without saying a word, and wants him to do the honorable thing and end his own life. It's the least he can do for all the crimes he's committed. It's brutal, satire at its finest, yet a threat that simply cannot be ignored. Humiliating, but also giving off a sense of mercy, a side of Akemura most didn't even believe he had. And with controlled battlefields, it gamifies the whole situation, taking pointers from Tafuku's playbook, creating a 250-meter radius ring to brawl in, and setting a winning-losing condition. To Samura Chihiro and everyone involved, this is a matter of life and death. But to Soga, it is nothing but a game. I said it last week, and I'm sure it'll become something I repeat as much as Parallel Bachi, but Soga breaks the very essence of the narrative, even as far as to answer other characters' thoughts with spoken speech. When Chihiro strikes down Yura, he asks Samura for maximum firepower, and that very clearly hurts him, crying out from pain as the corruption of the Shinichi attempts to leave his body. And in this chapter, that same maximum firepower is used in offensive form, with Soga aura farming the fuck out of it. Not one burn on his body, not a single scream of agony. If there was one way to reveal that the five wielders couldn't even defeat him, and that they had to literally stall until he gave himself up, it'd be a reveal like this. Spitting in the face of Samura, you start to get a picture of just what this final encounter looked like. Kumeyuri's banquet, completely ineffective. Cloud Gouger's Meiko combo, nothing to worry about. These attacks of overwhelming power that Chihiro and Ko have had to fight against, now being shown as equivalent to poking a bear. And it makes you wonder, what happened to morale? We know from Kazan's statements and the immediateness of the malediction that it did not last more than a few minutes. Did they keep trying to stop it as it was happening, or did they give up, surrendering and staring as the victims around them began to fall? Because that's the final layer to this sin. Not just that one of the heroes went haywire and became genocidal, not just that they were forced to hide the truth and lie about it for the rest of their lives, not just the fact that it happened at a time of peace and reparation, but that they tried to stop it and couldn't do anything but watch in silence. Samura's perceived worthlessness and suicidal tendencies, Uruha's alcoholism and idling away his life, Ibuki falling out of shape and becoming a recluse, Subaru needing to find a distraction in sushi. It all makes a lot of sense now, doesn't it? For men and women who came to be known as heroes, warriors of unparalleled strength, only for their greatest sin to be weakness, that they failed to defeat the one person they were quite literally destined to face. The irony is palpable, but god damn it if it doesn't taste good.